Hello, friends, and welcome back to Direct Edition. I'm your host, Dave, and I got an interview for you today. I'm going to be talking to Daniel Warren Johnson, comic superstar, all-around great guy, and super talented human being. I became aware of Daniel's work over the last couple of years, even though I'm a little late to his work. I ate it all up reading Murder Falcon, Do a Powerbomb, Extremity, Ghost Fleet, Space Mullet, Transformers, Beta Ray Bill, and his new book, The Moon is Following Us. But this conversation isn't all about comics. Dan's a real down-to-earth guy, and I just got a chance to have a really kind of just normal chat with him. We did talk about his comics. We get to gush about Steven Spielberg and our love for his films. We talk about music. We talk about just in general workflow and trying to stay positive and trying to do too much and how it's a blessing and a curse in a kind of way. Just a very person-to-person conversation. Before we get started with that, I just want to say thanks for listening. And if you haven't checked out Dan's YouTube channel, you can find him at just Daniel Warren Johnson. He goes live every Friday and just does a little kind of chill drawing and talking to the chat. Sometimes he plays guitar too. If you want to see this interview, it's on my YouTube channel. It's on West Coast Davengers. I'm not going to put the video on Direct Edition. There's no reason for it to be in two places, but you can go over there. And without further ado, here is my chat with DWJ, aka Daniel Warren Johnson. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Space. What's out there? And we're going to talk to astrophysicist Daniel Warren Johnson. I'm just kidding. The Moon is Following Us is out. Daniel Warren Johnson is here.
Hello. Don't mind me. I'm just plugging in my laptop.
That's okay. That's all. We all need power.
There we go. I was looking 12% on this very old laptop. You never know. I could be saying something really cool and just having
just have it cut out. Yeah, I wanted to pretend that we were doing some type of like Star Talk, and you were going to be the what's his name, Neil deGrasse Tyson. We were just going to talk about the moon and then eventually get to the comic book. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. I'm here in the studio working on some comics and just enjoying my air conditioning on late in September.
Yeah, the middle of the country's warm right now. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's normal fall here in the Northwest, so all is as it usually is.
I think it's because of the hurricane. Everything's just kind of staying still. So it's been very cold and humid here in Chicago, and then as soon as the sun comes out, it's very uncomfortable. So,
well, I'm glad you're able to stay cool.
It should also be mentioned that I am a baby when it comes to the weather. I'm okay. I'm okay if I don't have to draw, but if I have to sit here and draw, I better be chilly.
Fair enough. Well, you grew up in Boston, right?
I did.
Or outside of Boston, yeah, and I'm from New York, so weather does get. There are certain times of the year where you don't want to do anything. Either it's too cold or it's too humid and hot. So I get it.
Ever since I became a parent too, it's does my AC work? Does my heating work? Does my internet work? Yes to those three things. I'm good. I can just hang out in here.
Yeah, that is actually when you work, especially parent. I'm not, but I do work from home. So, it does become one of those things you need.
Yeah. 100%. And I'm all about green energy and climate change and everything. I recycle. We don't have Chicago does not do composting, but we're hoping for that soon. But when it comes to the air conditioning, I am
I think it's okay to have. I don't think you should feel guilty about one or two comforts. If you're I keep it at this temperature and I take an ice bath every hour and then I take a hot shower every other hour. And I'm maybe not. But
I would love someday just talk for an hour about the temperatures that all the artists that I know work at. It's one of the things I'm like, if I meet somebody who lives in a hot place,
Yeah.
I ask them like, hey, what do you set your air conditioner at? It's like something that I ask.
Well, I might be doing a segment on my audio podcast soon called What Grinds Your Gears. I've been talking about it with a bunch of different people that I've had on. So maybe you want to come on that and talk about like when the temperature is grinding your gears.
I could totally do that.
Comic books, yeah. You
Oh yeah, sorry, listeners.
No, that's okay. I mean, I think there does need to be a level of bullshitting in a podcast before you get down to a conversation.
I agree.
Yeah. But how was you just came back from Third Eye, right? In Baltimore, you did a signing this weekend?
Yes, it was really fun. I'd never been to Baltimore before. I've been to DC a bunch of times. My brother lives out there. But also never been to Third Eye. So it was super fun because people, I had heard stories and seen some YouTube videos about Third Eye Comics, but it was so big in person. And they have those two other shops that are right there in the strip mall, like a games shop and a music shop that was really awesome.
Oh, cool.
The purchaser at the music store, her taste in stickers was really on point. So had to pick up some cool stickers from that store, and just got to hang out a little bit. Had some crabs with the comic book couples counseling. Brad and Lisa, they took me out to get crabs right next to the naval base out there.
Oh, nice.
That was really fun. It was just a really good time, and it was really great to meet fans from the Baltimore area. There were so many people there that the line, Third Eye has like because when I do signings, I just kind of default to I'm there for forever and I'll just chat.
Yeah.
And Third Eye, to their credit, were like moving people. I felt like a little bit like a Star Trek celebrity. Like they move people through that line pretty fast. So like I meet like kids and I like just want to hang out and talk with kids, and then my handlers are like, it's time to let's go.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do that job of disappointing the people that are talking to you.
I know it, and it's like I'm getting used to it because I'm not used to that problem, and I really do love connecting with people and meeting new people, and you just never know who you're going to meet. I met at like a San Diego signing, I met a guy who works at the Fender Custom Shop.
Oh, nice.
I was like, dude, he's like, if you ever want a tour, I'm like, I do. Or the Fender, I don't know if it's a custom shop, but he works at like the Fender factory. He's like, I can hook you up, dude. And I was like, hook me up. I want to be hooked up. And so, yeah, it's just like really fun. And every once in a while, it's like, and also, I'm talking too much, but
no, you're not.
Every once in a while, somebody's just like, I had cancer and Murder Falcon really spoke to me, and they want to have a connection. And I want to do my best to stay open to that. So every once in a while, I have to tell my handler to like, well, we're fine. Like it's gonna be okay. But yeah.
Well, you do. You're a very down to earth person. I mean, I've met you. We've talked and stuff like that. But just kind of watching your YouTube show and even going back and watching, the older stuff, it's just a human connection. We're all looking for it in general. And then when you connect with somebody's art and you find out that person, or from your perspective, I've watched you meet people that we both know, and it's the same thing. That's kind of why I do this too, because I enjoy talking to people, and that's at the end of the day, all of the material things that we own, they can all go away, but a human connection doesn't, because it's not a thing you can quantify.
Agreed. And I think there's like a million different ways to get there, from like coin collecting to comic book collecting to comics to drawing to whatever art. So it's almost like it's like your choice of flint to get a fire started, with other people. So I digress.
No, but that's and I comic collecting for me and just throughout my life has connected me with so many people. And now that I built this community here, now I get to invite people to that community, and it becomes a thing. And with your signing in Baltimore, probably echoed your great, what looked like a great signing in Long Beach a couple weeks ago when your brand new book was released.
Yes. Yeah. And that signing in Long Beach was amazing.
Yeah.
like we had so many people come out. We were totally blown away.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was really fun. Also,
Yeah.
Long Beach is beautiful.
Yes, it
So
is. Yes, it is. Did you get, and I don't know, I know you didn't have too much time, but did you get a chance to check out Fingerprints Music in Long Beach while you were there?
we literally went into Long Beach and then we drove out of Long Beach.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were watching Picking Opera Blues. My art rep Felix Liu was doing a showing of that in Santa Ana.
Hmm.
So, and I took too long talking to people, so we had to skip dinner and we went right to the movie. And it was like 10:30 when we got out, and I was dying. I was so hungry. But yeah, so no, unfortunately, we did not get to hang out anywhere else in Long Beach.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, next time you're back,
Definitely.
it's a great record store. I mean, I would say it's next to Amoeba, LA's or Southern California's best record store.
Really? Is it big?
Yeah, it's quite large. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I am a record store guy.
Yeah, me too. So I
I
know.
love my physical media.
Yes. Well, that's what us nerds love. We love our things, and then the things that expand upon that. So, you know, we're not going to go too deep into spoilers, but let's
Sure.
talk about this brand new book. The Moon is Following Us. It's written by you, and it's art by Riley Rossimo. It's also features your art too. It's a beautiful combination of the fact that you're able to do these kind of pages and some of the panels that have your art with his art in it, or vice versa.
Yeah, it's gone. It's the creative process has gone really well so far. I would say, if any, it's gone and it's gotten better. When we did that first issue, whenever like we didn't really split any pages in half except for like maybe a one.
Mm-hmm.
And poor Riley, because he's the one who's starting. He does the first drawings,
Yeah.
and I finish each book. So he's just like was kind of winging it, and so he called me like on the days where. So there's one panel where we see Penny, and she's on the bridge facing away, and she's saying the moon is following us. That's my art, and the page is split in half, and so I had to like really quick that day do like a little breakdown of kind of what I was thinking, so Riley would kind of know what to draw, and that was a little bit off the cuff. But now when I write scripts, I actually will include like a little thumbnail in the script.
Oh, that's cool. So he
very
knows.
very rough, but enough for him that he can kind of copy the layout and draw what he has to draw. And then when he FedExes me the original art, I'm drawing on the same piece of paper, which is it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you're doing it old school. I mean, you're doing it like they did for the first, 60 years of comics.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And we just felt like we could draw separately and then, compile things in Photoshop, but it just felt more pure. It sounds kind of, I don't know. It's like the archival, like it's on the. So then, like on the original page, it's like we're sharing these two things. It just felt important.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for Riley, but I know your process is major. It's craft. It's about the physical art of drawing. You're not a huge digital person, so that makes sense to do it that way. And I don't know what the future holds for this book past the 10 issues, but if there's ever an artist edition, it's going to be a beautiful thing to look at because both of your art is on the page.
I agree.
Certain pages. So the bridge, speaking of the bridge and the title, I know that's Bridge by you in Chicago in a park.
Yes.
And your daughter was the one who coined the phrase. That's where you got it from?
Yeah. We were walking across that bridge, and kind of early in the evening when you can first see the moon, and she was looking and saw the moon there. She saw the moon when we were at the park that was across the bridge. She mentioned it again. And then we were walking back across the bridge. She said, the moon is following us. So I was just like, this is just a great title. I'm not sure for what. But it's just perfect. It just rolls off the tongue, and it just feels special. And I was talking to Riley about it, and I was like, what about if we had some sort of thing about parenting and the dream world, which would fit like Riley's vibe really well. And we would split the art duties, where I would kind of be taking like more of the grounded elements of the story, which is, silly for me to even say. I'm like, I'm the one drawing the coffee makers and the living rooms. but he really gravitated towards that, and it just kind of all stemmed from my interaction with Fiona, my daughter, just going to the park. So a pure, I don't know, it's just naturally channeling. You know, I'm trying to use everything that I can. Most of everything right now for me is parenting and dealing with like not normal, but because parenting is not normal. Dealing with just life stuff, you know.
Yeah, day to day.
And imbuing it with a sense of I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like Tolkien, I was reading this book called The Myth Makers that just came out by John Hendricks, which is amazing. But it's about Tolkien and C.S. Lewis's relationship in Oxford as they were writing their respective masterpieces. And when Tolkien, one of the first sentences Tolkien ever wrote of The Hobbit was when his kids were playing outside, and he's like, once lived a hobbit. I don't remember the opening lines of The Hobbit, but
I swear to you, I did not know you were going to say this, but
yeah, there you go.
Is it the
first? I think it's the first sentence, isn't it?
In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. He wrote that while his kids were roughhousing outside, and he was like doing extra overtime for Oxford grading papers, and his kids were playing outside, and he's just kind of ruminating on his kids playing outside, kind of goofing off, not really working, and he thought of that line, which is what helped him kind of start The Hobbit, which I just think is the coolest freaking story ever. It's their lives were like his life, both his and C.S. Lewis' life were like, except for being in war and stuff, were kind of normal, like kind of like just they were professors and they graded papers and they probably had to cut their lawns, and I don't know, it was very inspiring to read that.
But in those normal lives, and this is one of the reasons why I'm always kind of fascinated to talk with people that can write stories in both of their minds, but in Tolkien's mind lies this insanely creative cave. I mean, he created languages, he created worlds, he created, and the stories were rooted in the things he was seeing, obviously, in the World War and industrialism. But it's kind of like when I think about like a guy like Stephen Hawking, I'm pretty sure he was an alien, because like how creativeness only goes so far, right? But knowledge, like where did that come from?
I don't know. There's many answers to that question. And I think about it myself sometimes. I am very thankful that I feel, I don't know what the word is. Thankful that I am I'm just thankful that I'm a creative person. Yeah. It's an outlet in a way that I feel like I really kind of need to survive.
And we're thankful for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And that's the end.
Yeah. See you later.
But I mean, that, that's the thing about, and we're only one issue into The Moon Is Following Us. The one thing I wanted to say about the title mixed with, and for anybody that hasn't, I'll link below. Dan writes music, and he wrote a couple of pieces of music that are on YouTube for the book. The title's ominous. The music is ominous into positive, into back to ominous.
Sure.
But there's just something, you're right. It rolls off the tongue. And when I first started reading this, and obviously the first issue, we can talk about how you find out at the end that they're in Penny's dreams. But when I first, especially with the title and the music, I thought maybe they were in a video game.
Oh, cool.
At first, because it felt the first piece of music, that first guitar with, the I guess you're picking the riff, but it felt like something like of an early PlayStation adventure game theme.
Yeah.
And then when I started reading the book, I'm like, oh, they're in a video game. And then obviously they're in her dreams, but super creative. And like, I think the title is really what sets the tone, or at least set the tone in my brain for how I felt about everything.
Yeah. 100%. It's cool you mentioned that because I try and do like little video trailers for the stuff that I work on and I'm releasing myself. So I did one for Do a Power Bomb. And with this one, this is a riff that I wrote during COVID. Like I just
Oh,
have like
wow.
my little voice memo app.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just goofing off on my guitar a lot of the time. Like while watching TV, and I'll just stumble on cool little musical riffs and I have no place for them. So I have like 300 voice memo riffs in my phone that I'll just, and when I'm walking, I'll play them because it's been like years since I've heard them. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like really, that's a great riff. And that was one of them and I just kind of expanded on it and have like a whole little synth set up in my living room, which my wife hates.
Yeah.
And that's just like, yeah, it's right into a mixer. It's quick and dirty. I just hit record. I just kind of go. Sometimes I don't even use a click. And that just kind of came out. And it was the perfect little, everything just kind of like a vibe. It all kind of fit. Yeah, it all kind of points the same direction. And I actually found myself kind of, when thinking about the story after I made that trailer, because I'm still writing it. I'm writing issue 9 now.
Oh, okay.
I'll like kind of have that in the back of my head. So it's cool.
Well, and for people that don't know also, Murder Falcon has, I guess, 2 EPs attached to it, the band Bruticus, which you can go on Bandcamp and download. I actually did it today just because I'm ready for a reread on it anyway.
Yeah. And Bruticus with 2 O's, so I don't get in trouble with Hasbro.
Yeah, I will make sure to everything that I'm referencing that's yours will have a link below.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I've had that conversation. We had that conversation a little bit the first time we were on the channel. I've had it with Mahfood. I've had it with a couple other artists. I think they're the marriage. If somebody can marry music to a comic or a book or whatever, but a comic because it's such a visual medium, to have that extra sensory thing to go with it, I think it's an untapped kind of, I don't know, not resource, but it's definitely an untapped method of making comics a little bit more of an experience too.
Yes, I think so too. Sometimes I daydream about making movies because I would love to do that someday. And I just like would want to make my own soundtrack to movies. So this is me just fulfilling that fantasy in comic book form.
I mean, that's how it starts, right? Like, I'm sure if we were to poll some of the greatest, composers, John Williams or Hans Zimmer or Cliff Martinez, if we were to ask them if they ever did stuff like that before they actually got into movies, I bet you most of them did.
Yeah. And I was actually working out today. I was watching a video of Steven Spielberg talking about his storyboards for Raiders of the Lost Ark. And they're like, have you seen those storyboards that he did?
Yeah.
He handed them off to a more, artist person, but like those first storyboards, they're like little kid drawings.
Yeah.
But he's thinking visually about a lot of these specific scenes, like when they get tossed in the snake pit and the tomb closes over them.
Right, in the light.
He drew, the light like starts shrinking, and then Indy like kind of falls down on the statue. He drew that all out, and it just starts. It starts so simply, which is so encouraging. It's such a good reminder of going back to creating, a connection. It's not hard to make something that another person can see and bounce off of.
Yeah, I always played around with that kind of. I went to film school just for a year, but I made, stop motion, and I did a lot of comedy videos when I was in journalism class. Like, I would never be able to create serious art. It would always have to be 90% humor and then maybe 10% serious.
Okay.
But it's those things you just kind of like, you try something, and then if it doesn't work, you try it a different way. But I love that about Spielberg. It's probably why I was so influenced by him at a young age, because you could just see the simplicity of some of the things he was doing. And then like, as he just got better and better, it was like, they're simple, but yet he figured out a way to make them hard for everybody else to do.
I know. Yeah, he's such a master.
Yeah.
I mean, I of course like enjoyed. Can I ask how old you are?
I'll be 45 in a month and a half.
Okay, so you're a little. I'm 37, so you're a little older. So, you were able to appreciate at least a little more than I was, like a lot of his movies. So, like as a kid,
As a kid, yeah.
yeah, like where I didn't really see Jurassic Park maybe until I was in high school, like pretty late.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I remember E.T. like blowing me out of the water. But that was when I was a little kid, and I remember rewatching E.T. when I was like an adult, and like having an incredible like it's so refreshing. You remember things that are so special to you, like when you were a little kid, like little,
Mm-hmm.
and then you return to them as an adult. You're like, holy crap! Like this is amazing. Still,
His movies are timeless. Like
incredible.
there's nobody that has even 30 years or 40 years of a any type of resume that is timeless. I mean, and I think one of the reasons a lot of my parents attribute me having such a demented just everything is because my favorite movie of all time is Jaws, and
It's a great movie.
and I started watching that movie as a kid, and I love the ocean, and I still love the ocean. But yeah, like you're right. Like I grew up at the right age. Indiana Jones, Jaws, E.T., then Jurassic Park is like this whole new world. It's crazy. And then his sci-fi stuff, I think, is vastly underrated. And I don't think people talk about Minority Report and AI enough.
That is the damn truth, bro. I think AI is an incredible movie, and nobody thinks that it's as good as I always say it is.
Yeah.
And I think people kind of acknowledge that Minority Report is really good, but nobody ever talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, it's like it's so good.
I know. Obviously it's that's a Phil K. Dick story, right? Yeah, it's not Asimov. It's one of the two. It's either Asimov or Phil. I
don't know. You know better than me.
But I think it's one of those things, like these movies were 25. I mean, those stories were 45 years ahead of their time, but the movies were so ahead of their time in what they predicted and what they were doing, what he was doing visually, that a lot of people didn't do for a long time. But I could talk about him for hours. I sidetrack just one note. In my audio podcast in the second season, which was a couple months ago, I did a deep dive into how Jaws directly influenced Jordan Peele's Nope and Godzilla -1. Plot points, characters, story structure, shots. Did you see Godzilla -1?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite Godzilla movie I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was so much emotion in it. Like I like the classics, but yeah, dude, it's powerhouse.
Watch it with Jaws in mind, and then see what happens to your brain when you start thinking about Jaws when you watch that movie.
Okay, dude, I will.
But emotional stories, that's and at the center of this, what you and Riley are doing here, we know it's going to be an emotional roller coaster because The Moon Is Following Us is about saving a daughter who's in a coma, or like, I don't know if that was inferred in the end of this first issue, but that's what I'm assuming.
I left it, so it's always hard to know how much to give away. Because I really like to throw people in to the deep end. That's something I gravitate towards. I don't know if that's good or not. And then I will kind of retrace my steps and kind of hold people's hands a little later on. So that's coming in issue 2.
Okay.
Where it's just a little bit of a deeper dive into like how things got this way and what the parents have been up to since I just like opened a curtain on some crazy world.
Yeah.
So I won't say any more in that regard, but I think I was trying to find a way, like a rescue story, like rescuing your kids kind of story that has obviously been done before, and just like a newish way that would be kind of visually exciting and just kind of keep people guessing a little bit.
Yeah.
I also really like doing dream stories because it is a bit of a narrative, like, hey, it's the dream world. Go with it. Like, I'm not above that. I'll take all the help I can get. yeah. So, and honestly, working on Moon has been great. And it was also like, I just had to go. Like, because Riley was finishing up a DC book,
Mm-hmm.
and he made the official call. He's like, I want to do Moon with you. You want to do it? And I'm like, yes, I'm really excited. And the next day I woke up and started writing issue 1 because I'm like, oh boy, I gotta I gotta make this happen. Which is it's great. It's good to I need that fire under my butt.
Yeah. It
So
helped.
I don't know. It just all kind of culminated, and the kind of story that you're getting in Moon is the kind of story that I was able to write. For Riley, and in that time, and in that zone, in this section of my life, it just is all kind of coming together.
With character design, did you guys work on that together? Or was it Riley was just like, I'm gonna design these and I'm gonna show them to you? Like, because there's some great character design, Brio and Pigface. You must have shown off Brio at some point on the YouTube channel, because when I saw that crown, I'm like, I've seen this character before, and it must have been you showing him off.
I don't know how I came up with the Brio character.
Okay.
I don't know how I came up with that darn crown. It might have been Riley that added the crown.
Okay.
I can't actually remember. A frog with a sniper rifle is basically was my character design, which is a little silly. And in my version, when I first drew him, he looks a little more toady. And Riley kind of like rounded him out and made him more cartoony, which is great. And I can't remember if he added the crown or not. God, this is going to bother me. He's in my sketchbook somewhere, the first time I drew him. So
it must have been a sketchbook flipped through or something.
Maybe that was it. But anyway, when it came to designs, I had a little bit of input. I think with Brio was the main one. But other than Brio, Riley took most of that on his own, because Riley got very excited about the idea of the story and the whole vibe before he even started drawing it. This is like early on. He was still working on DC books when he started doing the character designs. And he just showed me, he's like, hey, I worked on this, I worked on that, and everything was looking amazing. And the pig face design was one that I had no idea was coming. He just designed it, and I went with it and actually changed the story so he could be in it more.
Oh, that's cool.
Because he's just like, it's so cool. Riley's an incredible designer. He actually helped me with the design of Wonder Woman, my Wonder Woman from Dead Earth. Yeah. I was really having a hard time just coming up with something that I felt was worthwhile, and Riley really helped me with that. So he's so good at like distinctly visual stuff that really kind of sticks with you after you look at it. And it's something that I feel like I need work on. And so I'm learning a lot, and it's a challenge to draw the characters that Riley has designed on my section of the pages. Because I'm like, what? It's like trying to figure out some alien language.
Yeah.
To figure it out. And of course, he's drawing these characters way more than I am. Like,
sure,
I've maybe drawn a little bit over maybe an issue and a half of like Moon is Following Us combined.
Combined, yeah.
And like, I don't really start getting comfortable with characters until like issue 3 or 4 on the series. Like, it wasn't until like the end of issue 4 that I really felt good on Transformers, like drawing Optimus Prime and all those guys. So what can you do? I don't.
That's I mean, it's nice to know that it's a collaborative effort on, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But we can make comparisons of Pigface to Jesse Pinkman when they're making Pigface action figures, and you're like, I was going to kill him off in the first issue.
No, seriously,
that happens though. We hear about that the more behind the scenes kind of talk that we've been around in the last 2 decades of like characters that weren't going to be big in movies or TV shows or whatever, and they were a hit and they become big characters.
So cool.
Yeah, yeah. Boba Fett's a great example of that.
That's
What,
right.
4 or 5
Organic.
minutes of screen time, and he's top 3 most popular Star Wars characters of all time.
So dope.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so speaking of this little book you've been working on for the last year and a half, Transformers. Um, once again, thank you, because like me, I was never a Transformers fan really, and you make Transformers fans out of people that aren't. And it's a shared sentiment across a lot of the comic book readers out there that weren't Transformers fans as kids.
Welcome to the dark side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I still have to catch up on it, but I'm trying to read it in chunks so that I can get those arcs, feel like a story piece. And I know the 12th issue just came out, so trade
Yep.
should be coming out soon. How many issues are you doing? 24? Are you doing do you know yet?
I'm doing 24
24.
issues.
And how gratifying has that been, working on it for the last year and change?
It's been awesome. I have had a really good time. Jorge makes my job very easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like really easy. Jorge and Mike. I am writing these insane things down on a Google Doc, and then magic comes out the other end. So I can't take too much credit because there's a lot of attitude in those lines that's doing a lot of that heavy lifting. I've told Jorge this multiple times, but I'm like, hey, when are you going to start writing and drawing your own stuff? Like, you're good. Like, because he takes my fairly sparse scripts, and he has a very cinematic visual storyteller's eye that comes very natural for him. And it's shown off in Transformers in a big way. So
yeah, he's killing it.
He really is. And it's really fun. And because I'm not drawing it anymore, like I told Robert, it was San Diego Comic-Con 2 San Diegos ago, where me and Hasbro, in a good way, we're like butting heads about, like, I want the story to go this way, and just like natural, natural, passionate artist arguments. And because I really felt this kind of ownership over it, even though it's not mine. But I know when something's good, and I fight for it. And I went up to Robert at San Diego. I was like, I know I'm being difficult now, but once I stop drawing it, I promise I won't be as much of a diva. And he was super cool. He's like, look, the fact that you're so passionate means that you're the right guy for the job. And that felt good. But because I'm not drawing it anymore, it's nice to. I don't want to make it seem like I'm not trying my hardest, but like I've taken my foot off the gas pedal a little bit.
Sure.
I still only know how to go one speed, and that's like a million miles an hour. But
yeah, I hear you.
Being just the writer, it's just, there's more love to be spread around, and I just don't have to. I don't know how to say this in a non-weird way. I just don't. It's like a little piece of it is gone, so then I get to like care about it a little bit less, but not that I don't care about it just as much as I did before.
Yeah, I understand. Well, you're also saying that Jorge is doing so much good work. It's like, you're telling. I mean, it's the idea of a great scriptwriter giving it to a great director. Sorkin working with David Fincher. How about that? Everything's. I can put anything into movie terms. So, but look, they have to also understand. Hasbro has to understand, like, there was nobody buying Transformers or looking for Transformers comics until you came along with this. And once again, and I know this, you go into comic stores now or never. I'll probably tell you, and if you call up the comics place in Bellingham, like every comic store owner I know is saying, Daniel Warren Johnson's Transformers is bringing people into the store.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, the corporate entities around, they got to just let you cook. Because, I mean, killing Bumblebee in the first issue, putting Megatron's arm on Optimus Prime, like, nobody thought of this. And you did. And people, so don't discount that. And I think anybody that's reading those books understands that.
Thank you,
But
sir.
yeah, I think, and we need interesting things happening in comic book stores all the time.
I agree.
Yeah, and so I wanted to ask you about this because you're the one who told everybody about it. But there's a Popular Science issue from 2017
Oh
that
yeah,
has this great environmentally
the
conscious story
Aquanauts.
called The Aquanauts. I know you didn't write it, but you did everything else.
Yep.
How does was this just one of these things that came along as a work for hire thing, or do you know somebody involved in this magazine?
I had done some stuff for Men's Health,
Okay.
and I think names get spun around in the magazine world. But it was like, how many pages is that?
I think it's like 8 total pages.
So like without the cover, what are we looking at? Without that first page.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay. So I think I got almost 10 grand for that whole story.
Wow. That's
Which
back
is
when magazines happened. They were happening still.
Dude, that is not comics money. That is like magazine money. So they told me that. I was like, do I do this? I don't know. I have other work. And they told me how much they're going to pay me. I was like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah, that's a all-nighter. That's you just work your ass off for a couple of days or however long it took. Was it digital or was it
It was digital because I had done work with Men's Health before and the edits were very intense. Like not intense, there's just a lot of them.
Sure.
And that's just how magazine and illustration is, I feel, at least in my experience. So they sent me all this like insane reference stuff for like NASA equipment and like stuff that someone would actually take into space. Whereas like, if you watch Alien or Star Wars or whatever, some sci-fi thing, it's like there's a whole visual development team to making things look cool.
Yes.
Whereas NASA doesn't give a shit about whether it looks cool or not. It's like, does it work? Yes or no. Is it reliable? Yes or no. Go make it. So they're sending me these absolutely insane things that like are the worst to draw. There's no form. There's no form to go along with the function. It's like only for function. And having to draw that stuff over and over and like figuring out how to draw it, that was brutal.
Wow.
But I got through it, a bunch of edits, and that's okay. And was able to pay rent for a few months. And
that's all that matters. For anybody looking on eBay, that's where I bought this copy. April 2017. Popular Science has a hidden DWJ.
That means I think they work really far in advance. So I think I was doing that probably summer 2016.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I had no money.
Yeah, and that's big money for we were talking in terms of real people. Like that's big money, no matter what,
Period.
Yeah.
It's huge. And it all went to groceries and rent because we weren't in the red. But I remember like we were penny pinching.
Yeah.
I was just talking with my buddy Lambert, who came with me to the trip to Japan in 2015 with the Felix Comic Art guys. And then I really had no money. So I met Lambert, who was a friend of Felix. We were reminiscing, and Lambert had no idea who I was. And Felix called him and said, "Hey, there's this new kid on the block. He has no money and he needs to get to Japan. Do you maybe want to have him draw you Batman for like $200 or something? Some budget option." Not budget. Felix wouldn't call it budget, but like, my rate at the time.
Sure.
Not very expensive.
And
he opened up a list for me just so I could pay for my plane ticket. Because the way our finances were back then, I would be able to fly myself to Japan, but then I wouldn't be able to buy anything.
Yeah. And then you would really be miserable because
you'd be pretty sad
seeing all this manga and all this great food and be like,
So thanks to Lambert and a few other collectors, I was able to
draw
my way to Tokyo.
Now, you had some idiot at Heroes Comic Con bidding $7,000 on your painting, and he didn't even win it.
I know, it's crazy to think about. I want to always try and remember that.
Well, I mean,
remember where I came from.
yeah, like and I've become friends with a lot of people thanks to, knowing Kazra and going to OAX. And, I know a lot of people that own a lot of your art, and it's
Mm.
just like, even, it's just amazing to see. But yeah, I mean, congratulations to you for being, the guy who you can't even get a sketch cover from. I'll find out tomorrow morning that I can't get a sketch cover from.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I have that double page spread from the first DPS from Ghost Fleet, so I'm happy with that.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a good one.
yeah,
I had
yeah.
no idea how to draw trucks then. That was my first real truck drawing.
And now you're drawing the most famous truck of all time.
You were there in the beginning.
So with you got do we have any information on this art book that's coming to Kickstarter? Is it still going to be this year?
It's a good question. So John Flesks and I are collaborating on a art book together, which will have like commissions and sketches and thoughts of mine like on paper. And he does amazing art books. Google Flesks Publications.
Yes.
FLESKES. Okay. Yeah. Just it's so good, and it's an honor to have him even want to do anything with me. So we've been slowly working at it and slowly compiling, getting permission from people to like put specific pieces in there. But there was some overlap with the Kickstarter, the Extremity Kickstarter. So that's why things haven't really been like really pushed yet.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to oversaturate, and we want to make sure everybody gets their Extremity Kickstarter stuff before we have another Daniel Warren Johnson Kickstarter. So, and those two entities are totally separate. It's Skybound doing the Extremity stuff and John doing the art of. But I think once people get their Kickstarter books and that goes smoothly, then we can really think about it. And it might be like November, because I think people are supposed to get their Kickstarter books in October.
I think so. Yeah.
So we're keeping an eye on it, and if it's really too late, John will know. We maybe push it till spring, but we'll see.
Okay.
I'm not super worried about it. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, it's gonna be the coolest. There's definitely that Cowboy Bebop commission I did. It's definitely gonna be in there. I've done a few of them, but there's some really awesome pieces in there that I'm super excited to have in there. And
you've done some commissions that I didn't see until more recently, like just kind of browsing on Comic Art Fans that are I at some point I'm sure somebody will sell one that I'll come into contact with, but I'll have to. We'll see what happens at Heroes next year. Maybe we'll do another somewhat giant painting.
Oh geez, yeah. Oh man,
yeah. I know it's a pain in the ass for the most part. Speaking of conventions, at San Diego Comic-Con this year, you snagged 2 Eisners. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's big stuff.
That is big stuff. It's crazy to think about for Transformers. Yeah, I'm still a little speechless.
Yeah,
I can't really believe it.
No, it was nice to see that. I mean, some of my favorite people. You won 2. Becky Cloonan won 2, and Tula won one of those with her for Somna.
Yep.
And then Eddie won the posthumous one for hip hop. So
that's right.
Yeah, it was a pretty big year for the Eisners.
I'll say, it's an honor to be included, and I don't know. It's like so surreal, dude, to be up there, and taking an award. And like my first award, I was just watching Jump Street 22.
Oh, the second one.
The second one, is that the right?
Hilarious. Yeah,
it's a great movie. The first one is my favorite, but I hear this voice, and there's Patton Oswalt is on. He's like plays this tiny little role in Jump Street 22, and I was like, oh yeah, I got my Eisner from him, my first Eisner from the night. I gave my little speech, and he looked at me. He goes, "Great job." No. I'm sorry. No, he doesn't. He says, "Well done." That's what he said.
He's steeped in the comic world. His love
Yes.
for comics, and he also writes what's the name of that book for Dark Horse? I can't remember the name of it, but he was at Rose City Comic Con last month promoting it with a bunch of people along with
Awesome.
him. Is there anything that you can tell us about this book you're working on that, for everybody that knows the title, but for nobody that knows, nobody knows the title, this new sci-fi epic that you're working on, that you are writing and drawing and doing it all?
Yeah, so sorry. I'm like doing a little bit of whiting out as I'm talking to you right now, just because like I want to be able to hang out with my wife after this podcast
Sure.
and not draw. But it's going really well. Slow. So yeah, for your listeners that don't know, I'm working on this science fiction project. It's my next big thing that I'm writing and drawing. I have been working on it since like 2017. And all I can say is that every single time that I work on it, I like finish a page, I feel like I am completing my life's purpose.
That's really good.
I don't want to be dramatic, but that's like is how I feel. It's like an extension of myself. And I don't know if it's going to be any good, but I'm cashing in all my chips.
Okay.
There's I'm leaving it all in the ring, you know.
Yeah, you're putting it all on the line. All the marbles.
Because it's the only way I know how to go. I'm sure it'll blow up in my face eventually. Maybe it'll be the project, but so I don't know what the word is. I just feel so strongly in the concept, and the execution is like, I don't know. I don't want to romanticize it too much, but when you work on something for so long, and you finally get started on it, it's a special feeling, and it's a project that I would love to have next to me, kind of by my side for the rest of my life, if that makes sense. Like,
that's awesome.
I'm not necessarily saying it's like my Hellboy or anything. I'm just having a really good time making it, and I'm taking my time, and I'm gonna try and have fun while I'm doing it too. I can have a tendency to get in my head about this big stuff, so I just gotta like treat it like a job, have fun, and then not take it too seriously.
Well, if your love for wrestling is what inspired Do a Powerbomb, and your love for music is what inspired Murder Falcon,
Sure.
and your love for Mad Max epic type things inspired Extremity, then whatever is behind the sci-fi epic is going to juice it up, beef it up, light it on fire, and let it rip. So, and that's so Moon is following us. By the time this comes out, issue 2 will just be coming out.
Awesome.
We'll look for a Kickstarter at some point. You're not doing any more cons for the rest of the year, correct?
I don't believe so. Kind
of
stay
good. Then you can stay put. Felix is always dropping stuff that you're doing. So if you want a chance at trying to buy some original art from Dan, FelixComicArt.com. What else? We've got the Extremity hardcover coming out. Now or Never, which is a great store in San Diego, has got 50 signed bookplate editions that are going to go very quick. I know way too much, Dan. And and the Kickstarter for the the Art of Extremity will be shipping soon enough, but that has nothing to do with either of us. And I will link your YouTube down below, because your YouTube channel is a source of inspiration, even if you're not an artist. And I'm not an artist.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel where I don't post too many videos, but I do go live every Friday afternoon, evening-ish, called Friday with D-Dubs. And it's just really fun. It's super chill. I don't really answer too many questions. I don't talk a ton.
Yeah.
I just kind of draw and hang out. And
sometimes you play guitar for 12 minutes straight, and then you apologize, and we're all like, why is he apologizing?
I know. At the signing in Baltimore, I had a young man come up to me and thank me profusely for Friday with D-Dubs. And I've had a lot of people say that to me, especially like kind of coming out of the pandemic. People are like, dude, this like got every Friday got me through COVID. I was like, that is the coolest thing ever to hear. I thank you so much.
Dude, Friday with D-Dubs is my chance to sit and be in a chat. It's kind of like with Ink Pulp. I get a chance to sit and be in a chat and talk to people I know, like Jeremy Heiler and, actual Dracula and all these people. And it's like, I love the fact that you created a community. It's what I loved about Kayfabe. It's what I love about Ink Pulp. Like a bunch of nerds just hanging out, doing whatever. So, but thank you so much for being here. I look forward to our next conversation because we didn't even talk about stuff like Lord of the Rings or Alan Lee or anything like that.
Oh, I love Alan Lee.
Yeah, I know. I've got something to show you actually when I hit the stop button. But
Sweet.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for being just such a gracious person to talk to.
Oh, dude, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me. I love the show. See you next time.
All right. The moon is following us. Boop. Thanks for listening to that. I hope that maybe this chat is the catalyst you need to pick up one of his books or check out his YouTube channel or check out the interview again just with video. And if you are curious to see more of Dan on my channel, there's going to be a special episode around Halloween and he's going to be on it too. And that was recorded at the same time as this. So there's a little behind the scenes. Before we get going, friends, I got to ask you. Just give me $10. Send a self-addressed stamp envelope to, I'm just kidding. All I need from you is to subscribe if you're not. Leave a review on the platform you're listening to. Spotify, you can leave a star review. Apple, you can leave a star review and an actual review. And you can also subscribe to this on YouTube and comment. So all that stuff helps the algorithm, helps me push this along, and gets me out there when it comes to Direct Edition, which is a podcast about nothing and everything. So thank you again for listening. And you'll be listening to this voice next week on Direct Edition.